Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Tough Friends Collective podcast with me, your host, Chelsea Gomez, also known on the internet as Oh, You're So Tough. I am a two-time cancer survivor as well as an artist, and this podcast is all about real, authentic, and genuine conversations about cancer. And most of the input that I get and share on this podcast comes directly from my Instagram page, which is called Oh, You're So Tough. Long time no talk, everyone. I know I have slacked on my podcast, but I'm back in my podcast era. We're just going to call this season 2 of the Tough Friends Collective. And I have made the decision that we are just going to do audio only podcasts as opposed to offering a video portion as well. I think that this will allow me to create a lot more content for you all. So hopefully you still enjoy listening as much as you did watching and listening. The topic of today's podcast is one that I have wanted to do for a long time, and this is going to be about advocacy and being paid versus not being paid for your advocacy. And the thing that sparked this, I always have this conversation with many people, but the thing that sparked this particular idea was a Substack written by Christine von Reisfeld, and it is called Expertise Without a Paycheck. I read that back in June, and it really resonated with me, as many of the things that I have felt over the years of being an advocate within the cancer space. And I am just going to read to you the first paragraph of this Substack article as an intro into the topic. And I'm also going to, if I can, link her article so that you can also read it. So it's called, like I said, Expertise Without a Paycheck. When appreciation doesn't pay the bills. 3 emails before I even get out of bed, all asking to pick my brain, to join a quick panel, or review a slide deck from the patient point of view. None with a budget, none offering partnership, all assuming that my experience is a resource to be mined, but not compensated. I'm sure that this resonates with many of you listening, like it did with me. I can't tell you how many times I have been on different calls and Zoom calls and all the things where, literally everyone else on the phone or the Zoom call is being paid and I'm not. Even though I'm being asked for this meeting, I'm being called in as a subject matter expert. But once again, I'm the only one who isn't sitting on that call, who I'm not collecting a paycheck. Everyone else is. I also want to read, I have a screenshot of what I originally said with this article when I shared it on my stories. So I want to read this. So I'll never forget how I gave free art to a humongous nonprofit for years, plus did other free advocacy work for them. And when I finally asked to be paid, I was told it wasn't in their budget. I have countless more stories like this. Please know your words and that your story has value. It isn't about the money, but at the same time it is. We are just trying to survive. We deserve to be compensated for our work and our stories. Last year, I was offered $50, no airfare, no hotel, to be a keynote speaker at a huge conference sponsored by multiple pharma companies. The line in this article about the author realizing in a meeting that everyone there was being paid, ironically, being paid except the advocates, struck a nerve. I've been in so many meetings like this. So many times they just want to get my perspective because it's so valuable, yet it's not valuable enough to make sure I can feed my family. Just know I've been pushing back and saying no on behalf of this whole community behind the scenes for years. We have a long way to go, but together we can change this. One thing I'm not going to do on this call is name names of nonprofits or organizations because it's not worthwhile to do that. It's a systemic problem within, these spaces. And so it's not advantageous for me to start naming names. I just want to tell you about my experiences and give you some advice. And also I have some submissions from folks that are in this space doing similar work. As I said in that quick little commentary that I put on my Instagram, I have had a lot of cool, really big opportunities where it's like, hey, especially me being an artist, I think that sometimes people in creative fields are kind of taken advantage of sometimes. And I have found that a lot. where these, humongous organizations or nonprofits, they act like they're paying me with exposure, but exposure doesn't pay the bills. I think that we've heard that time and time again in creative fields, and it's the truth. And I've done things where, hey, I believe in this person's mission or this organization's mission. So, okay, like I will and often do things for free for people that I never talk about because that's just who I am as a person. And I don't need to go around going, hey guys, just let you know, like I sent this to this person and I did this. Like that is not who I am as a person. I don't use my good deeds as content. And I think that sometimes these large organizations see people like me and think, oh, look at her. Like we can just, this is really resonating with this group of people. We want that because they clearly, at the end of the day, want to bring people into their page and bring people into their organization because they want donations to keep the work going, which that's how every nonprofit works. Okay. But there's a line that sometimes they cross where it's like, oh, hey girl, like we'll put your art on our Instagram. It's our national Instagram. We'll put it here. We'll put it there. And they have really strict requirements. You do them all and you do a nice thing. And then it's like the next year rolls around. Oh, hey, hon, we want to do it again. And I just remember like being like with that first example, hey, I would love to do this again with you, but like I would like to be paid this time. Oh, we don't have a budget. And this is coming from a humongous nonprofit that has more money than I could ever imagine. I'm just a normal, like, independent one person living down here in Florida, okay? I'm a mom. I'm an independent artist, a one-person business owner. I don't have anywhere near the resources that these people have. And the fact that they and others, like, approach folks to do things for them, especially like me when I'm an artist and that's literally my job and you're asking me for a professional service, you wouldn't ask that of other professionals to just do everything for free for you because, oh, she happens to be the girl that had cancer too, so it should be free. And it's not just people who do professional services like art, it's people who share their story. Not everybody wants to or is paid to share their story, but when it becomes like that's the focal point of like their campaign or their article about you or whatever it may be, it kind of feels like you're exploiting us because it's not easy to continually share your story. It takes a little piece of you each time. You're opening up your heart, you're ripping it out and giving it to them and going, hey, here you go. Like I still remember one article I did, I was not paid. And the amount of pictures they wanted and like the pictures I would give them from when I was sick were the ones that like I am most comfortable sharing that I've shared before. But like that wasn't even good enough for them. They wanted me to like dig in the crates of my trauma and find more content for them. And that is exactly what happens in so many instances where, hey, we want to feature your story. Well, okay, but what benefit is it giving to the patient and what is it taking from them? And if they are willing to, break open their ribs, pull their heart out and put it on the page for you or give you this interview and pull out all these pictures and relive everything, why is it not normal or something that is expected to pay somebody for that? Like, I just think that that is so strange. And that is absolutely something that needs to be changed because the reality is so many of us, in whether it be the chronic illness or cancer community, are struggling financially. And so like you're just kind of like hitting somebody while they're already down and disguising it as either an opportunity or like spreading awareness. Okay, but like we're in the age of social media. So if somebody wants to spread awareness about something, they don't need a humongous organization or even a small organization to do that for them, especially when it doesn't really benefit the patient or the survivor or the advocate. Period. Okay, so I'm gonna go and read my first submission from the community. This says, thank you for sharing this. It's so hard when wanting to get back to the community and do so much, but not getting paid to advocate. It's mentally and financially taxing. I wish I could just get paid for advocating on my page. So that sort of ties in beautifully to what I was talking about. We do have these spaces like social media, which have given us all a platform, if we want one, to talk about our story. And we're doing that every day. And I don't know, like when you have followers or whatever on social media, I think people tend to think that that automatically comes with some sort of financial gain. I can tell you right now that the most I ever make on Instagram, I think I get paid $9 or $10 every 2 weeks, or like if that. It's not, and that is from Instagram. That's from Meta platforms. And that is it. Like I don't have, because I choose not to take on sponsorships for things that I don't know about or believe in. Like I don't want my platform to be that. And sponsorships are the primary way that people get paid on social media. They don't just have income streaming in from sharing their story and having followers 9 times out of 10. And I've also noticed that a lot of times these organizations, like they're saying it's financially taxing, because a lot of times these organizations, they are wanting you to like travel to where this opportunity is without offering you anything to do that. Like my example with this large nonprofit wanting me to come and be like, I guess it's on the keynote panel. Me being involved was actually nominated by their patient advisory board that was like, hey, let's bring her in. Like, she's really relevant to this community, et cetera, et cetera. And them telling me that like their budget is $50 to have me come there, and it's in another state. I would need to fly there, pay for lodging, maybe pay for the admittance to the event if I wanted to do anything else besides my portion. And like being on a 1-hour Zoom call or whatever with this organization that is a large organization, and like that is what they say to me. It is so, to me, I found it very insulting. Now, I'm not Taylor Swift. I'm not like where I'm like, oh, honey, you need to pay me thousands of dollars. No. But anyone who hears that $50 thing is, you have to laugh. It's just so insanely ridiculous. And I have been, like I said, in those meetings where at this point, I'm just kind of clocking them on it being so ridiculous. Like I remember in this instance, this particular organization and I have never really worked together because they always have this problem, I'm going to call it a problem, with paying people and valuing their time. And I said that essentially. I said, like, hey, this is kind of crazy how you keep asking me for meetings and keep suggesting these partnerships. And, I have a following and people want to see me. Your advisory board is the one that nominated me to come, but like, you don't value me at all. You don't value the fact that I have a child. I have bills to pay. I am a small business owner. I'd have to step back from my business for that amount of days. You just don't value me at all. But then you're also on your other side of your cheek saying, oh, we value you, but you don't. That's the reality. Another part of that story, which I mentioned early on in this podcast, is, you look and see that this event is heavily sponsored by pharma companies, which, that's the reality. In this space, a lot of nonprofits receive money from pharmaceutical companies. I personally have never gotten money from a pharmaceutical company. Not to say that I never would, but like that's not something I don't seek out a partnership with them. I don't do any of that. Like I am more inclined to not do that. But when I see that this, organization that has, once again, more money than I'll ever see, probably in my lifetime, when you see that they have gotten like the tier level for sponsoring is by X pharmacy company, and that is a $50,000 sponsorship, and this one's $150,000, and you start adding it up, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. They're at $500,000 or more already for these sponsorships, but they just have $50 for me. Let that sink in. That's not okay, and that's not normal. Oh, and one more comment, just like on the advocacy on your page, like I totally feel what that person's saying. I have had certain conversations with nonprofits over the years where I'm like, why don't you help people who are doing positive things in this space stay afloat? Like, for me, I'm just going to be 100% honest. Like my Etsy shop, that's a very small part of like what pays my bills every month. My husband works, thank goodness. If my husband didn't have a good job, I wouldn't be able to do this work because I don't make much at all. Like at all. Like to the point where I've considered, do I need to get a part-time job at Michael's craft store? Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? Because it's very hard out here right now, especially with the state of the world. And so, I've talked to nonprofits like, hey, it would be amazing if you had certain advocates that you partner with where you help them have a living wage to do what we do every day. Like, how much easier would it be? Like, everything I do online, it's subsidized by my time and my money and my everything. And they see the value in me. They see the value in my work, but they don't put anything behind it. And I think that is really difficult and hard for anyone who is, trying to survive while putting so much of themselves out there. Okay, another submission says, I work for a large pharma company and you 100% should be compensated if you are asked to give any type of insight. But also, there are agencies that find patients to provide testimonials and other insights, and they will make sure you are properly compensated, but also take a cut of it. I have never been approached by an agency to try to sign me for anything. I do see that a lot in the UK. I've noticed a lot of advocates in the UK are signed by agencies, and I don't blame them because it is very hard to navigate these conversations in spaces where you're the only one against 5 different people who are it's kind of like when you call HR when you work for an organization. Also, sorry if my voice is a little odd. I'm still recovering from laryngitis, but I was like, I want to do a podcast, so we're doing it. Anyway, so it's kind of like when you call HR and you think that they're really for you, but they're actually for the company. So that's very much what you're up against. So I understand why people would like to get an agent. I have never, like I said, been approached or looked for one, but I can see why. And it's hard to navigate who's legit, what do they want? And half the time these people approach you and clearly they're not wanting to pay, or they're not expecting you to ask to be paid. And so the conversations are extremely awkward. I have gotten better at just detaching myself from it. But I mean, I still get upset when it's oh, cool. You just wanted to do this, or, I would recommend, if you're listening to this and you are an organization or a company wanting to work with patients, lead with the fact that you are valuing their time monetarily, because that is important. They have to survive, and needing money is just a reality of life. I'm not asking you to be selfish. We're not being selfish in the least. Most times advocates that I know, where they've asked to be paid, it's $100, and it's an extreme amount of work or extreme amount of commitment, and that is just not acceptable. And I know that it's hard sometimes to walk away from an opportunity if you think oh, it's really great opportunity, like me with the national nonprofit. I could have had my work looked at more. Supposedly, exposure pays the bills. No, it doesn't. But the exposure would have been great. It would have gotten more people to follow me, which ultimately gives you more, credibility. And then for me, it's hey, could you check out my books? Could you check out my art? Hey, help, But I turned it down because I think that it is important to turn these things down and say why, because it leads to better for more people in the future. Don't say yes to everything. Not every opportunity is for you. If they're not valuing your time, don't say yes, because it just, once again, it cheapens you, because they're going to say, oh, just example with the first one. And by the way, these are all mistakes I've made, so I'm not preaching to the choir oh, I know everything. No, I've made and will continue to make, I'm sure, many mistakes in this avenue as well as others. So I'm just saying, they're not used to paying you, so why would they want to? Why would they budget for that? Why would they think that was a necessity? Why would they pay the next person who comes along? I know it's hard to walk away from certain things and you think oh, I'll never get this opportunity again. I promise you, the things that are meant for you will find you, and the things that aren't meant for you, run far away, because it wasn't the right partnership for you to begin with. As far as these agencies taking a cut of people's income, I know that that's how agents work. I mean, I'm not thrilled with it, but what would they be doing? Like, they are doing, I'm guessing, legitimate work to get people jobs, so I can understand. But like, it kind of scares me because are these people, having your best interests at heart? Do they, you know, take a reasonable amount? I don't know. I mean, I would happy to hear from somebody who has an agent, and like, if you want to be anonymous, please let me know. You can write to me. I'd love to know your perspective, your experiences, your good and bad on it. Let us know. Here, next submission, this says one zillion% this. I have given so many free presentations / talks and recently decided enough was enough, and I'm asking for compensation for every one. There have been some that don't work out payment-wise, but are still close to my heart, so I do them anyway. But even just asking to be paid as a default has been hard and a huge step. To this person, I say I'm very proud of you for putting your foot down and like saying, no, like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I know that, especially like when you're first, I don't know, I guess I think I was more vulnerable to this when I was first like out of treatment and like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I want to share my story. I want to help other people. But like, there are other ways to do it besides allowing people to exploit your story for content that don't value you. And that's what this person is like saying. Like, there's some that don't work out and what this person's saying too, there's some that don't work out payment wise, but you still do it. For example, with this $50 opportunity I told you about, it's very possible that I might have still went for $50 if they had paid for my travel and lodging, simply for the fact that I want to see people in the community. Like, I know people from the community recommended me to come. I know that people from the community go to this, and I would like to meet you. That would be probably the only reason I would go. So there's things that, like I said before, I do for free. I do for discounts. I do all the time things that I don't talk about, once again, because it's not about the clout or the recognition for it at all. And I will tell you, most, if not 99.9% of advocates sharing about their story, they're not in it for the money. They're not in it for the clout. They're not in it for any of that. They're in it for like, hey, I want better for the people who come after me. I want to, make sure more young people are diagnosed early. I want to do this. I want to do that. It's not like, oh, I'm going to get rich. No, that is not. And if you're listening to this and you're thinking advocacy is a way to get rich, it's not. I'm just going to full stop. It's not. If you do it the way that, in my opinion, if you do it in the way that preserves your integrity and your morals, it's not. It's just not. But as this person is saying, and as I've said in this already, these conversations aren't fun and they're not enjoyable and they're very awkward and they're very like pulling teeth at certain times. And I'll tell you a story about something that happened to me this year. I was approached by like a large organization that I have worked with, but in a smaller capacity. This was like the corporate version of the organization. And I agreed to one thing, and then as soon as I signed the contract, it became something else. And also, let's table the contract discussion for a minute. We'll go back to that. So it became something else. It became like all they wanted was a watered down version of who I am and what I do, to the point that like I was literally embarrassed by what was going to be connected with like my artwork and my name. And I had to do all of this extra work to make sure that this didn't happen. And it was horrible. They like shuffled me around to a whole bunch of different people. They barely replied to me when I emailed. They went into like Canva and like recreated all of my type of artwork to try to like, instead of paying me for more, they wanted to just copy me and make it look like it. They had no respect for me as an artist or my opinions and thoughts. They canceled things at the last minute. They expected me to purchase things to advertise on their behalf, as opposed to them sending me the things that they wanted me to advertise. They didn't pay me on time, even though we had a contract. They made it extremely hard for me to get paid. They literally, it's a total and complete nightmare. I don't know if I'm going to go into any more because I don't want to, like I said, name and shame the organizations, but like the way that I was treated this year was a whole different ball game. Like, where I was smart enough to have the contract, to have everything in place, and I still was treated horribly. And I, at one point, like, even said, like, I would give them feedback about the way they treated me, but it got to a point that they did something so horrible that I said, I no longer want to talk to you. I just want my money, and I want to never talk about this again or really talk to you all again. And one of the main reasons, like, again, with this organization that I'm not going to really go into it, is like they have a bigger umbrella over other people that have nothing to do with this. Like, this is the corporate faction of them, and like the other people didn't do anything wrong. So like I'm too demure to like hurt them, and I never would. That's just not who I am. But yeah, so let's get to that contract piece. You need a contract. I don't care what you're doing. You need a contract because it not only protects you, but it protects them too. And that's how I would say it. And don't just accept the contract that they send you. Have someone else read it. Obviously, we don't have the money to have lawyers on retainer, but you got to have a friend or two that maybe knows something, or a parent, or whatever. You need to have a contract, and you need somebody to review it, and you need to push back on things that you don't feel comfortable about. For example, with this particular instance, I will tell you, let me give you a little advice, is make sure that you have consequences for when people don't pay you on time. Most of the work that you do, like with being like a freelance creative person, or even, I think it's too with advocacy, a lot of the work we do is upfront before we've ever been paid. And that is a little sketchy because then it's like, oh, well, I turned over all the deliverables, but like I don't have the money. Like you're still like on a net positive. I'm on a net negative, negative, negative. And so I had like the payment terms, the contract terms, the intellectual property terms, the everything, but I didn't have a consequence for them if they didn't pay me on time. And that turned into, I think it was at least like 2 months of begging to be paid for the work that I already did. And this one was so terrible because like they made money on my work, and like I just didn't have any money for my work at all. So please, friends, get that contract, push back on their contract. Oh, also, another organization one time wanted me to make memes for them, and they wanted me to sign a contract for these memes that like the meme that I was like, whatever I was handing over, I held full intellectual property rights to, which the memes were about a famous movie franchise. Clearly, I don't have the intellectual property rights for a huge movie franchise. But there's something called fair use, which is how people make memes. It's called fair use. So yeah, I made the memes and it's fair use, but like none of that was spelled out. It was all like, oh, anything that you're turning over to us, you're going to sign this line that says you have the intellectual property rights. And if we were ever sued by this huge multi-bazillion dollar movie franchise, then we're going to be like, oh, honey, no, go ahead and sue Chelsea instead. No. And when I said how ridiculous and absurd that was, it was like, oh, yeah, like the person was literally like, yes, we know it's absurd, but like this is how we've always done things. And it's like, well, just because this is how you've always done things isn't appropriate. And like other people may not know well enough to read a contract and understand what you're saying. And so it can be really quite scary. So please just protect yourself however you can. I'm going to read one more submission from the community, and that says, especially as patient advocates with ongoing healthcare costs, many of us need the money more than those who are being paid. Asking us to relive our trauma for free while paying others is crazy to me. I think that person is alluding to the fact that like those spaces where, you know, we're being brought in as a subject matter expert or whatever, and like you're on this call with so many people from this organization and they're just like, haha, like I'm on a salary and like you're here and like you're just not getting paid anything. Like I think it is rather ridiculous. I mean, I hope that after listening to this, if you don't know that these things are happening, that it opens your eyes a little bit to be like, oh, okay, that's interesting. For the last part of this podcast, I'm just going to do a little bit more tea on things that have happened to me over the years to kind of warn you on some things and trickery and some shenanigans that have happened so you can be more aware of what's going on. So one of the first collaborations I did was art for like a t-shirt with an organization, and did not have a contract, was on the phone with this person who was just like a one-person organization, and they seemed very kind and understanding, but they were asking me a lot about my intellectual property and like copyrights, which I thought was interesting. I didn't know why they were asking me that, and at the time I was like in the process of filing a trademark on like Oh You're So Tough, because that's my business name and all the things. And yeah, I thought it was weird, but I didn't have the red flag. Like if somebody approached a conversation with me now asking those questions like in a professional meeting, I'd be like, why do you want to know that? Like what are you getting at? But so this person, I did this work for them, and like they're supposed to pay me, and so, there I was like 2 years later, where they have been selling the shirts, promoting the shirts, tagging me on all the things, doing all the things. And like I still had not seen a dime. And I had asked behind the scenes several times, like, hey, like, just checking in on like getting paid. Like, and it was not a big amount of money at all, because like I said, I didn't know about all of this. And it was always like, oh, LOL, like, yeah, we'll get to it, basically. And like, here I am 2 years later, and you guys haven't gotten to it. And it became very, very awkward. And I think I just basically started distancing myself from this organization. And they noticed, and like, the person called me out, like, why aren't you like doing this and that? It's like, why aren't you paying me? Like, it just became such an awkward and horrible situation. So that's where my spidey senses have come and developed to say, no, we need a contract. And no, this year, no, we need a contract that says if you don't pay me by X date, there are consequences, and those consequences are financial for you. Another really crazy thing happened with a nonprofit where they purchased an item from my store, and then took said item and sent the item overseas, and had their own version of it in a different color made, and started giving it out with their name on the back of it. And like, I found out because I saw a person post from like a conference, and I'll never forget that. Like, I was just like stunned. I was completely stunned. And I ended up having to speak to the owner of this nonprofit on the phone to be like, excuse me, like, what are you doing? Like, I was so upset. And like, her attitude towards me was like, well, I didn't think that you actually even made that art. So like, what? Like, I was flabbergasted, and I'll never forget. Like, I made this person send me all of this product that they had made and manufactured overseas. I made them send it to me. And I just remember like going to the post office and like sitting there in my car, unboxing an entire package of stolen product, basically stolen artwork, copyright infringed upon bullshit, literally, and being like, is this real life? And this person just had they weren't really sorry, and they weren't really getting why it was a problem, and they weren't really understanding until like I really had to be, and I don't like to be like this, but I had to be very forceful and like, hey, no, you stole from me. You're a cancer organization who stole from a cancer survivor. That is horrible. Another, just like on an ending note, when dealing with like certain nonprofits, is just like, make sure that you take some time before you share like major ideas with certain, like, don't just share your best ideas or your most like, don't just share your dreams with anyone, because some people are out here shopping for dreams. They're shopping for things to take and do, and things that you say. They're looking to like get their taglines and get their authenticity straight from yours. And so I regret some of the things that I've done over the years, because like I've given credibility to certain people or organizations that I just don't think are actually aligned with my morals and my like, I guess my like approach to life. I guess that's morals. And there's certain people who are good at like faking certain things and like using that cancer aspect to kind of make you feel like they're a safe person, or this is a safe thing or a safe place. And it's really not always safe, even if people can play like certain roles. So just please be careful. And like, I will just tell you, like, pay attention to when like your favorite advocate or whatever online, like pay attention when they back away from certain people or organizations. Like typically it's for a reason. I know for me for sure, like I'm not a person that's like, I'm gonna call you out. I'm gonna make, like I said, I'm not gonna name and shame people unless they really like they deserve it. like like truly it's like a safety type thing. But like I will 9 times out of 10, 9.5, 9.8 times out of 10, you'll notice that I don't interact with them. I don't boost their stuff. I don't have further dealings with them, and it's for a reason. I promise you. I I'm a very loyal, like ride or die person, but when people show me their true colors, I believe them. And so, yeah, just pay attention to not just me, but other people when they, maybe they had something going on with somebody before and now they don't. Like it does speak volumes if you look closely. And as far as like the ideas thing, like I've had my ideas taken, I've had them recreated. I had my entire like cancer relapse story like taken and like regurgitated as someone else's. I've had ideas that I've come up with taken and repurposed for other people's content and their entire brand. Like it is, this stuff happens, but people don't talk about it. And I don't talk about it either because, I mean, number one, it's upsetting. Number two, what does it help to talk about it other than like me now telling you, like spreading awareness to say protect yourself and to not always just like give 100% of yourself to every single person. Like you need to keep something back and you need to make sure that people have your correct intentions in mind. And just because somebody had cancer or has cancer, like this is just a blanket statement, like just doesn't mean that they're a good person. Like I know it's so easy in this community to just be like, oh, well, like, we always, like, we're family. We connect on everything. We had cancer. Like, it just kind of, like, levels us to a point where, like, we feel this familiarity with certain organizations or people. And that, you can't always rely on that. You really can't. And so, please, like, don't just agree to things up front. Don't just accept everything people are saying. Don't, like I said, give your best ideas. Don't give all of you to other people who are not there for the right reason. You need to, like, once again, like when you're on meetings, don't just say yes. You could say, thank you for the opportunity. Like, let me think about it. I think that you should always lead with the let me think about it. Let me get back to you. Like, let's go from there. Because I've gotten myself into a lot of situations where I was like, oh yeah, like I'm on the phone, so there's pressure and like all these people are smiling at me and they're like, oh, you're so great, you're wonderful, you're amazing, you're everything. Oh, you want to do this, right? And you're like, oh, oh, okay, like we haven't even spoken about, compensation or whatever it might be. And like also think about too, like when you're giving your story, like think about how long you want that to be out there forever, because I know a lot of people don't publicly share their story because they don't want like whoever from accounting to be able to like pull up everything from them and everything about them on the internet. So just think about that too. Like that could maybe be another episode where we talk about that. But anyways, I hope that you enjoyed this podcast episode. I hope that it helped you kind of see behind the curtain a little bit. I have really honestly for the last 5 years been pushing back, saying no, having uncomfortable conversations because I want better, not only for myself, but for you all. So if you enjoyed this podcast episode, I would greatly appreciate it if you would, leave me a comment, rate the podcast. That really does help. It's just me. I don't have any sponsors. Just me talking to the microphone, talking to you. Let me know if you have any thoughts on this topic. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next, well, not see you. You'll hear from me in the next one. Bye, all. Have a good one.